A stolen vendor password never touched a cash register. It opened Home Depot's network perimeter. For 5 months, custom malware sat quietly on self-checkout lanes, harvesting 56 million payment cards. Banks were already reissuing them before the company said a word. This is how one login became the largest card breach on record. Days before Home Depot said anything, banks were already worried. On September 2nd, 2014, card issuers and law enforcement flagged unusual charges tracing back to the chain. Investigative reporter Brian Krebs published the tip that morning, before Home Depot confirmed a thing. 6 days later, on September 8th, Home Depot confirmed it. Payment systems had been breached. US and Canadian stores were potentially exposed. The company said there was no evidence stolen debit PIN numbers were involved. The company was answering a question the banks had already asked. Home Depot is not a niche target. Over 2,200 US stores. Contractors, weekend renovators, everyday shoppers, millions of transactions a day. Self-checkout was built for speed. Scan, tap, pay, leave. Convenient for shoppers. Also, it turned out, an unstaffed lane that ran on trust. Here's the part that surprised investigators. The attackers didn't crack a firewall. They used a legitimate username and password stolen from a third-party vendor, never publicly named, to walk into the network's outer edge. That single login carried more reach than anyone at that vendor likely imagined. It didn't reach the registers by itself. It only opened the door. Here's the first turn. If a vendor password only reaches the outer edge, something else had to happen next. Something that lets strangers find the self-checkout lanes by name. That gap is where this story actually begins. The answer was privilege escalation. Once inside the perimeter, attackers found a way to grab higher-level access rights, the kind normally reserved for the company's own network administrators. With those rights, they could move sideways, room to room, until they reached the systems Home Depot had labeled as payment terminals. Strip away the jargon, and the path is simple. Stolen vendor login, perimeter access, escalated privileges, malware planted on self-checkout, for steps between a password and 56 million cards. Home Depot's own security partners called the malware custom-built. Unique, never seen before, designed to slip past antivirus. Independent investigators, including Krebs on security, reported a different lineage, a variant of the BlackPOS family, the same underground toolkit tied to the target breach the year before. Two versions of the same code, not the same story. This wasn't every register in the store. Reporting at the time, citing MasterCard and industry sources, pointed to roughly 1,700 of Home Depot's 2,200 US stores, plus about 112 in Canada. Other reporting, citing the Wall Street Journal, put the number of targeted self-checkout lanes at around 7,500, machines the network had quietly tagged as payment terminals. Picture the ordinary version of this. A shopper on a Saturday morning, buying lumber or paint, tapping their card at self-checkout because the line looked shorter. From April to September 2014, 5 months, that same lane was quietly feeding a stranger's server. Nobody behind the register knew. Second turn. Home Depot did not catch this. Banks did, reading fraud patterns off cards that had touched its stores. The company that owned the network was the last to know its own registers had been compromised. On September 18th, the real scale landed. 56 million unique payment cards. Home Depot said the malware was gone from US and Canadian systems, and the entry point was closed. The number stuck to headlines everywhere. The largest retail card breach on record at that point in history. There's a detail easy to miss. Home Depot had launched enhanced point-of-sale encryption back in January 2014. That rollout finished at every US store on September 13th. But the malware had already been running since April. January's fix arrived 3 months after the compromise began. The malware wasn't declared eliminated until September 18th. The fix landed inside the attack window, not ahead of it. 2 months later, on November 6th, a second filing widened the picture. Home Depot confirmed the entry method, that stolen vendor username and password, and a separate set of files held 53 million email addresses. No passwords, no card numbers. The company said, just contact information. Just enough for the next attack. Even the headline number gets messy. Home Depot's own filings say 56 million unique cards. Years later, in 2020, New York's Attorney General described the same breach as touching about 40 million consumers. Different math, different definitions, a reminder that even a documented breach doesn't always add up cleanly on paper. For customers, the fallout kept arriving. Banks reissued cards ahead of Labor Day shopping. Then came the fake emails, messages dressed up as Home Depot surveys and gift card offers, hunting the 53 million addresses that had leaked. The breach ended. The phishing season it started did not. Chairman and CEO Frank Blake apologized publicly and promised customers would not pay for fraudulent charges. Free credit monitoring followed. So did an accelerated push to new chip-and-pin terminals. About 85,000 of them, Technology Canada already had, and the US was still rolling out ahead of the industry's 2015 deadline. Third turn. The breach itself closed in weeks. The bill did not. What started as a $62 million estimate would keep climbing for years, long after the headlines moved on to the next retailer. Follow the money. 2014, roughly $62 million in expected costs, offset by about $27 million in insurance. By 2016 reporting, cumulative pre-tax expenses near $263 million. By the time banks settled in 2017, reporting put total costs past $179 million. Home Depot paid banks $25 million directly. Then, in November 2020, $17.5 million more to 46 states and D.C., with a mandate for a real security program, a chief information security officer, two-factor authentication, and vendor oversight. A stolen password's final invoice, 6 years later. Shoppers had their own settlement track. A consumer class action resolved for about $19.5 million, roughly $13 million in cash, the rest funding credit monitoring for anyone who could show they'd shopped with a card during the breach window. One more echo. The stolen cards eventually surfaced on an underground marketplace called Rescator, the same shop that had sold cards from Target's breach the year before. Same shop, different retailer, same vendor credential playbook the industry had just watched work once already. Some questions stay open. Home Depot never publicly named the vendor whose login opened the door. Some reporting has pointed to a Windows vulnerability, patched only after the breach, as the final step into self-checkout, a detail the company's own releases never listed. The file isn't fully closed. If you shopped at Home Depot in 2014 or anywhere with a card reader since, the checklist barely changes. Check statements for charges you don't recognize. Take reissue notices seriously. Treat any surprise gift card or survey email as a phishing attempt until proven otherwise. For companies, the lesson is structural. Vendor logins need their own boundaries, not a straight line to elevated network rights. Segment the network. Watch for privilege escalation, not just malware signatures. Vendor risk management is not optional anymore. It is the perimeter. And build detection fast enough to beat your own bank to the story. This started with one vendor's password and ended as a decade of settlements, encryption upgrades, and a security mandate written into law by regulators. Figures in this file come from Home Depot's own filings, court records, and reporting by Krebs on security and Reuters. Which corporate failure should we open the file on next? Corporate breach. Case closed for now.